So in that scenario, you're saying that the son, daughter, somebody gets the mom to take out a loan on the property. This could be just a cash out refinance. It could also be a reverse mortgage, right? And then suddenly there's a pile of
Yes,
cash, which then is potentially absconded with or something like that.
absolutely. Follow the money.
It's incredible for me to even have to ask this, but it sounds like there are still attorneys out there that, on purpose or not, are somehow being involved in this process.
It is really unfortunate, but there are some attorneys who just aren't versed in this practice area. They don't understand elder financial abuse. They don't understand undue influence. Of course, they understand fraud, but the default when you're an attorney is when your client comes to you, you need to respect the fact that the presumption is that they have sufficient capacity to make the decisions for which they are requesting services.
Right. And that actually is a very strong point and brings me sort of to the next question about capacity, which is how often does diminished capacity play a role in these scenarios?
Something close to 100%.
Okay. So usually when people are coming to these attorneys and being set in front of them, there is some form of diminished capacity and nobody is questioning that.
And nobody should, because there's a presumption in the law that people have capacity to make decisions for which they are asking for services. The challenge is when you're dealing with elders and you have the red flag of potential undue influence. I think an estate planner or an attorney not versed in these issues uh, will have a really hard time determining what their job is, because it's not a lawyer's job to require a client to get a capacity declaration. But a lawyer who wants their client's wishes to be respected needs to do everything possible to protect what I would call a potentially problematic transaction.
So it sounds like there's a bit of a catch-22 here. And the question is, what should attorneys and other folks in this situation who suspect diminished capacity do about it with still while still respecting the rights and wishes of the elder? How does that actually work?
What's really tricky is people's capacity is a spectrum. On any given day, it could be a spectrum. What's really hard about having an attorney have to determine whether their client has capacity is that's not the attorney's job. And so if an attorney perceives questionable capacity or the likelihood that a decision is the product of undue influence, I would hope that that attorney wishes to represent their client well by ensuring that the decision they're making is the product of their own free will. So, what an attorney can do is they can request that the client undergo a neuropsychological exam. The attorney can also bring in, if it's certain scenario, an independent examiner, which is usually another attorney, to question the client and make sure that this is the decision of the client's free will. And that actually has been codified in situations where elders give gifts to their caregivers who are paid. And another thing an attorney can do is take extraordinarily good notes about their meeting with the elder, because in that scenario, if the product of the attorney's services is ever questioned, that attorney needs to know that they are going to become a witness in a potential lawsuit, and they are going to have to justify their decision to provide the service they provided to make the transfer they did in the sense of real property.
Okay, thank you. Those are some good suggestions, and it sounds like it is a complex calculus that an attorney should go through when they are sitting in front of an elder, and there may be some questions in the back of their mind. And
Absolutely.
you know, I know that you often get involved later down the line after maybe some of those doubts were not listened to, and then a whole other scenario unfolded. So just to get a little further into where you become involved and, elders may be entangled in something or they're on the precipice of that and families hiring you to maybe avoid that kind of situation. Can you give a good example of maybe a complex or a long-term financial bind that an elder or a family with an elder found themselves in that you've been successful at working to untangle?
Well, one situation was very sad and has a happy ending.
Okay, we like those.
What was very sad, yes. So, what was very sad is the elder was lonely. Her husband had passed away and her children lived far away. And so she was looking for companionship. She found it through Match.com. What she didn't realize is her new boyfriend was a 3-time convicted felon of loan fraud. He didn't know that his 3 prior girlfriends, one of whom was a prior fiance, had to declare bankruptcy because of his shenanigans. He didn't know that he'd spent 20 of the last 30 years in federal prison. And she didn't know that his imploring her to just help him get back on his feet, involving her securing over $6 million worth of loans, would actually be tied to properties that weren't worth half that. He also didn't know that her creating an LLC for him to purchase real properties were being purchased through a complete real estate fraud. So the real estate fraud was an A to B to C. So A sold to B, which was a straw man, and B sold to C, which was the elder. So the elder paid literally twice as much for real properties than they were valued on the same day. When this was all brought to her attention, she didn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. This was her boyfriend. She was elated to have so much attention bestowed upon her after being so lonely. And when we uncovered it all and we explained it to her, she still refused to believe it. So the court had to step in. We established a conservatorship of estate. We investigated. We involved the FBI. And the FBI actually was already involved. And I was a witness to the FBI's investigation that is ongoing, which is why I can't use names. However, now, today, those properties are being sold. The lender has given up all claims against the elder, and the family's going to decide if they want to keep going. We've extricated the elder from over $9.5 million of liability today, and they're going to decide how they want to proceed.
Okay. So that was an example where somebody came in and basically convinced the elder to sign for loans to purchase real estate out of state. And it sounds like in the midst of those transfers, there was money siphoned off uh, by fraudulent methods. And that money was then taken by this same abuser and
Yep.
possibly other co-conspirators, as they like to say. Is that a fair assumption?
That is absolutely fair. So I conducted an investigation, and everybody I called, I said, the options here, you can either work with me and we can present your information to the court, or I am going to have to paint you as a co-conspirator. And it was incredible how many people wanted to talk to me.
And when you say potential co-conspirators, that could have been lenders, title companies,
Real estate
real
agents,
estate
title
agents? Okay.
agents,
Yeah.
appraisers who appraised the property at twice or more their
Okay.
value. Incredible.
Wow. So that's a pretty extreme example. And this all started with Match.com. And in this case, I'm assuming that the abuser didn't put any of this in his Match.com profile, right?
Yeah, I don't think
She
so.
was just looking for companionship. So that's a very specific and eye-opening scenario there. Are any other types of long-term or other financial contracts that we haven't covered so far? Have you seen any scenarios where people actually try to sell the real estate out from under the elder, or is it more family member taking the real estate? What's kind of the more common scenarios that you see?
So the very common scenario is the elder has diminished capacity and they are highly susceptible to undue influence by the predator, where a predator will convince an elder to trust them in either a particular transaction or a general power of attorney or to name them as successor trustee. And once they have that ticket, they sell the real
Mm,
property.
mm. Have you ever been involved in a scenario where loans were taken out that later the elders said they did not understand what they were signing, and it was particularly hard or almost impossible to undo those because of the federal protections against banks and lenders and things like that.
Absolutely. And in that scenario, I've had several cases like that. What I've found is that financial institutions are very well protected in the law. They are protected federally and they are protected on state level. And we understand the reason for that. They're very well lobbied. But we also know that they are the fox in charge of the hen house. So if the fox is in charge of the hen house, the fox is not going to let other people in. I had a deposition once during which I was told by the financial institution's attorney that I was barking up the wrong tree because I was trying to get the financial institution to start committing elder discrimination. And the concept was that the bank cannot discriminate against its elder clients by treating them any differently than their other clients. What's wrong with a bank's position that elder clients can't be treated differently than their other clients has nothing to do with elder discrimination. It has everything to do with the elder financial protections that we need in place to ensure our elders' assets are being protected.
Right. So I think what I hear you saying at the end there is that there's still a lot more that needs to be put in place that isn't in place. Is that a fair assertion?
There is no question that are not enough protections of elders' assets being held in financial institutions. So, what a loved one of an elder can and must do is review the elder's account statements every month with the elder or not, but get access to those statements.
Right. So thank you, Liza. This has been a very informative interview, and you have some great expertise to share with everybody, and we appreciate that. To narrow down just to sort of one final parting question, if you could give one piece of advice to families or professionals to prevent these situations before they happen, what would that be?
To estate planners, do not estate plan by proxy. Do not estate plan for someone you haven't met and assess whether they are actually making decisions for themselves or they're making decisions based on either a limited capacity or some type of undue influence. To family members, please talk to your elder loved ones about their vulnerabilities and the fact that you want to be on their team. Let the elders know that you're there to protect them and to care about them. And the more you can find out about their finances early on and be involved so that you can see what the patterns are when the elder has their wits about them, the more you can understand when those patterns continue and when those patterns change. And finally, when there's a sweet young thing or a roving mechanic or a move-in landscaper, immediately jump in. The faster you can get in control of the situation and protect your loved one, the easier it's going to be.
Thank you for your sage advice today. You've been an excellent interviewee. How can folks find you if they want to get more information to help their family members?
They can take a look at my website at devrieslawsf.com and send me a message through my website.
Great. So that's www.devrieslawsf.com, and your phone number's on there as well. Again, this concludes our interview with Liza DeVries. And if you have more questions or information, please contact her. And additionally, feel free to subscribe to our channel for more great content like this.